Right, okay, let's go from question 20. That's where we left off. Question 20. A bag contains only red counters and green counters. The ratio of red counters to green counters is 2 to 7. There are 45 counters in the bag in total. Work out the number of red counters in the bag. A lot of words that aren't really necessary. They're there to confuse you. So all I've put there is 2 to 7 equals 45. I know this is red and this is green. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that's labelled so I don't lose any marks for confusion. Now if 2 to 7 equals 45, I know that 2 plus 7 equals 9. First step is to always add my ratios. I'm then going to divide the given total by what I got when I added them, which is 45 divided by 9, which gives me 5. So I need to go back and multiply this 2 by 5, which gives me 10, and then the 7 by 5, which gives me 35. I also can just check that I'm correct, because 10 plus 35 gives me 45. Final mark is, let me just indicate what one was red, and that was 10. So I'm going to put 10. 2 marks. Now you're going to grab a mark here for doing your 45 divided by 9. Okay? And then your final mark is just for multiplying that and getting the right number on that line. Lewis adds more green counters to the bag. The ratio of red to green counters in the bag is now 1 to 5. Work out how many green counters Lewis adds to the bag. So the ratio of red counters to green counters is now 1 to 5. We don't know how many green counters he's added, so we need to sit and just have a look at this question, because this question could confuse a lot of us, okay? So we've gone from 2 to 7, and 1 to 5. Now I knew that each share up here was worth 5. Now the difference between 2 and 1 is 1, and the difference between 7 and 5 is 2. If I add that difference together, I get 3. If I times that by the share amount, which was 5, I get 15. Okay, so if I work with 15, let's see if I do red to green, add the extra 15 in. So if I add another 15 in from my 45, I've got 60. Okay, and my 35 becomes 50, and my 10 stays as 10. So I've added the 15 counters in. My total was 45. I've added the share amount difference, which was 3. I times that by the share amount, which was 5, which gives me 15. So I've added the difference, which is now giving me 60. Okay, now I know the 15 counters was added on the green side. So my ratio is 1 to 5. If I divide 60 in the ratio of 1 to 5, I get 10 to 50. Now, if I'm correct with the 15, this 50 will be 15 more than the share up here. The share up here was 35. The share here is now 50. That is 15 more. So he added 15 counters. Reflect triangle A in the line y equals 1. Now this is going to be very difficult for me to do, but I'm just going to indicate exactly where you need to be drawing that line. So, and you have to bear with me because this line will not be anywhere near as straight as what it should be. So the first thing you need to do is go to triangle A and go to the line y equals 1. Y is 1 there. So we draw a line, and I know this is not straight. We draw a line across here. Yours will be straight. Then we just count. We can see that's 1 square down from there. So we need to go 1 square down from here. Mark that point. This one, 1 square. 1 square there. This one, how many squares away from the line? 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 there, and then you are going to draw a much nicer triangle than what I'm about to draw. That is absolutely awful. You know where I'm going with this. Mark your points. And then 1, 2, 3. And then using a ruler, just join them points up. I'm just going to make the points a little bit thicker for you so you can see exactly where they should be. So I've got 1 point here, 1 point here, and 1 point here. And I'm just going to join those up. Now here I've got translate, which means move the vector using the vector 3, 1. This tells me I go 3 spaces to the right and then 1 space up. So I'm going to move everything 1, 2, 3 to the right and then 1 up. So I plot my new point there. Then here, 1, 2, 3 to the right, then 1 up. Then this point here, 1, 2, 3 to the right, and then 1 up. And then I just join those dots up and label my new triangle C. Right, let's have a look at some speed, distance, time now. First thing I'm going to do, because I can see the word speed there and far obviously means distance, is I'm just going to draw out very roughly my speed, distance, time triangle. Okay. So how far will the lorry travel in 2.5 hours? So this is distance, isn't it? Because it's saying how far. So distance is speed multiplied by time. 48 multiplied by 2.5. So 48 times 2.5. That's going to get me my mark, my first mark. Now I just need to actually times it by 2.5. Now 48 times 2 gives me 96. Half of 48 is 24. So I just add them two together, which gives me 120. Now what I'd always say with these questions is be realistic. Okay, if you get an answer and it's like 6,000 miles, that's not realistic, is it? Because you've got 48 here. So in 2.5 hours, she's not going to be able to drastically increase the amount of distance she covers, is she? So always go back. Does that look realistic given the speed? Okay, just be very mindful of that. And this is the sort of thing when you're going back and checking answers you need to be looking at. A car is also on the road. The speed of the car is 5% more than the speed of the lorry. Work out the speed of the car. Now, if we know the speed of the lorry was 48 miles an hour, you're going to bank your 10%, which is 4.8. So your 5% is 2.4, and it's 2.4 miles quicker per hour. Again, it's testing you here. It wants you to know that quicker means you've obviously got to add. You've got to show intent for adding that 2.4. 48 plus 2.4 gives me 50.4 miles per hour. Don't round. It hasn't asked you to. You can have 0.4 miles an hour. Okay. If it doesn't ask you to give it to a certain decimal place, it doesn't ask you to round, do not do that because you will lose marks. Okay. You're going to find your 1 mark here for your 5%, and then your extra mark is going to be for adding that on and getting that on the answer line. Now, this question is a lovely question for 4 marks. One thing you have to be very careful of is that you know the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So you're going to have T here for triangle. You're then going to have R here for rectangle. You're going to write your ratio in of 1 to 3. The area of the triangle to the area of the rectangle is 1 to 3. Work out the value of H being the height of the rectangle. So let's work out the area of this triangle here. And we're going to do 8 times 3, which gives me 24. Do not forget to divide your 24 by 2, which gives you 12 centimetres. We know it's squared because it's area. I'm going to write in here 12 because I know my area of my triangle is 12 centimetres squared, which then means the area of my rectangle is 3 times that 12. 12 times 3 is 36. Now I know the area of a rectangle is base times height, and base times height here equals 36. I have been given the base, which is 10. I have not been given the height. So 10 times something gives me 36. I'm just going to do 36 divided by 10. I'm doing the inverse, which gives me 3.6. So my height is 3.6 centimetres. You'll see there's not an awful lot of work in here. Okay, I've been careful to make sure that I've collected my marks. So I've got a mark here for working out the area of that triangle. I've got a mark here for scaling up that ratio. I've got a mark here for forming an equation. And then my final mark for solving that equation. This is a very nice question, but if you go into this question and rush it, you're going to lose marks very quickly. Right, question number 24. Work out 3.5 plus 1 2/3 and give your answer as a mixed number in its simplest form. First thing I'm going to do is convert these mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the large number, the 3, by the denominator, which here is 2, and add it to the numerator. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I've got 7 over 2. And I've got to add that to 1 2/3. Now 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So that's 5 over 3. Now I need to make my denominators the same. I'm going to multiply them to make them out of 6. Okay, so 7 out of 2 is 21 out of 6. How do I know that? Because 2 times 3 is 6 and 7 times 3 is 21. I'm going to make 5 out of 3 become 10 out of 6 because 3 times 2 is 6 and 5 times 2 is 10. Now my denominators are the same. I can go ahead and just add the numerators, which gives me 21 plus 10 is 31 out of my denominator, which I use as 6. Now it wants it as a mixed number, which tells me my answer is going to be what you'd call top heavy. It's going to be improper. So if I did work this out and I was given something that wasn't improper, I know immediately I've done something wrong. Now 31 over 6. How many 6's go into 31 equally? Well, that's 5. And what are you left with? You are left with 1. And that's out of 6. So your answer will be 5 and 1 over 6. And I'll probably write this in. 5 and 1 over 6. And there's no way you're going to miss that because it's ridiculously big. 3 marks there. Your first mark is going to be converting them to improper. Your second mark is going to be converting them to a denominator the same. And then your third mark is going to be for simplifying correctly. Right, now this question here would scare a lot of people because of the tiny numbers and the lines and the minuses, etc. Take it step by step, okay? This isn't rocket science because it's 2 marks. Okay, that indicates that you know how to do this. You can do this. So take a minute, do it step by step. Now 20 divided by 4 gives me 5. So that's the first one I'm going to write. I know I'm going to have a P there. 8 take away 2 gives me 6. Why am I taking away? Because the laws of indices tell me when dividing, I subtract. 8 take away 2 is 6. So it's going to be 5p to the power of 6. And this little arrow here, guys, is just how you'd write to the power when you're not able to do it on your keyboard. It doesn't actually let me do it on this one, which is very helpful. So I'll just have to stick with that. So 5p to the power of 6. And then I've got q here as well. So I'm going to write q. And 5 minus minus 1. Minus a minus is plus. 5 plus 1 is 6. 5p to the power of 6, q to the power of 6. Okay,